Is it on now? Okay, push forward and chop to the neck. Sit back. Here's the opposite side happening here. Okay, and then we cut up, sit back, and diagonal flying. Sit back, chamber the sword here. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Chop down, poke, chop down, poke, sit back. So everything has to be set up before the next movement. 1, 2, turn, drop, cut over the top, turn, okay, so we here step up to close the form. So this is brush knee, and then we come back to this position and stop. Okay, so that's the full sequence for those of you who already know the form. Yeah, I had the mic off, I guess, while I was looking for the swords. But anyways, that's the sequence. A couple of things that we were working on earlier was this, over the top and down, looking, following and tracking the movement. You can see that the direction of these movements allow you to set up positions. Okay, so what's important is the elbow, the footwork. So the blade goes up with the step up. You connect here, and then you push. So that gives you an idea that the hands and feet have to be coordinated, all right? So I said earlier, when you slice, you have to allow the elbow to drop slightly, so it gives you, so gravity kind of works with you. Because when you're doing Tai Chi and it's slow motion, your transition, when you elongate the direction of movement, it gives it a flow, right? So that's really important. Now, that half step, when we push forward like this and we sit back, open and you shift your weight. You open, shift the weight, and then you switch feet. So the switching of the feet is that, so that's that shuffle step that takes you forward on the same side. So really, you're really controlling your weight while you take that step. Or when you do this step, it's essentially that setup until you take that step. So you see the coordination required for the agility of your footwork comes from that. So that's what a relationship is, in the lower half of your body. Upper half of your body has a relationship. So, when you're working with something like this or with Tai Chi, integration of body coordination, those are, one of the, main benefits is because you're building complex movement, but you're building this integration of body that is so essential to be functional, on a daily basis. So functionality is, not only, looked at through the eyes of a warrior, but you have to look at, the integration of body as functionality in the daily activity. Most of us aren't going out to battle. We're going out to, do things that are productive. And a lot of productivity has to do with how we move through the day. So if you're efficient and you're moving your body correctly, you're not going to be exhausted halfway through the day. So really how we use our body is very important. So the prevention of age-related degeneration is part of that. Learning to move efficiently, not wasting energy. That's really an important side of what we do. So I had just run through the sequence, and I wanted you to realize that there is quite a bit of sequence that you have to memorize, but it's all based on these basic fundamental motions. One of the things that we have to learn to do is to bring the sword over the head. This is a waist cut. This is a shoulder level cut, depending on, that's a folding of the elbow to bring it over the head to get to the other side. And I mentioned in the broadsword, which is this, you can see the shape of it. This is a typical apparatus in Tai Chi, or actually some of the martial arts Kung Fu systems. And this is the willow palm, and this go together, all right? In the straight sword, we have this hand position, and that's straight sword fingers. In this form, it's this or the hook. Okay, so we have those two hand positions on the non-dominant side. So this is the dominant side of the weapon. This is the supporting hand or the secondary hand. When we do the diagonal flying, be sure to have the sword underneath the separating hand. You don't want the sword to come here and then have this hand coming out like this when this hand goes up. So you want your hand to be underneath. Okay, so that's logic, and it also is a safety factor. When we poke down, don't lead with the tip. Close and let it come around. So when we're going over the head, even though the tip is going down, don't point the tip. Control your arm so that the sword will pass by rather than poke in. So here, if I'm just really just closing my shoulder, so my arms just do this. You see, so it never really comes close to the body. It comes close because I'm taking it in a vertical direction, but I'm stepping to the side. And then this will come over the top and then chop down. So this is just, what you may miss when you're doing the movement, that you think all you're doing is tracking what this is doing. You should track it through your body, so we know that when we slice, it's really the arm going over the head, not just the sword. Okay, so that's something that we have to be aware of, because a lot of times when we first learn this, you're tracking this and you think that this is going like this, whereas this is really essential that you fold the elbow and go over the top. Now, if I go like this, the sword is really quite far away from my body. Okay. Now, when we're cutting up, that's, a lot easier to control. It's when we go like this and we go over the head and we lose sight of what's going on. So you have to use proprioception or a feeling of what's going on when the sword goes behind you, because we really can't see what's going on behind. We can only direct this weapon. So that's kind of some of the things that you have to do. So some of the basics that we did before was we start the form, right? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. 1. This is now without the legs, just to get familiar with the maneuvers. Now when we're here, we see what happens here. We drop the sword by wrapping the wrists over. And then that allows you to do this. You see that? So when we're here, 1, 2, 3. 1, blade down, turn. You see? So what's critical is how you maneuver your appendages. If you just kind of think it's like this, then there's no control. That's what I mean by if you're just flicking the sword around because you're doing it out here, there's absolutely no control and no direction of the movement that's controlled. So this is controlled. 1, 2, 3. So what, again, is what a conflict in that movement is because you have tension in the body, tension in the joints. So first you have to relax the movement, relax your shoulder and elbow, and your hand will go like this and like this. So when is there tension in your joints? When you're learning something new, it becomes awkward, you're unfamiliar with it, the body doesn't know how to respond. So you have to go through this process to identify what's going to happen in the motion, and then let your body figure that out. So don't rush, take your time. Otherwise you're going to hit yourself with the sword or you're going to injure yourself. So that's something as a safety factor. Learn to maneuver through these different movements. Listen, how much time we have? About 5 minutes? 10:38. So, that was the broadsword. We got to run through that. So last week I went over a couple of things. So I'm going to just bring some insight to some of the weaponry we have in the Tai Chi form. One of them is a long weapon. And what do we have? What's the purpose of a long weapon aside from something that you would use in combat? Not in today's world, but the thing is, we use apparatus for training so we can understand what the movements are used, or let's see, using the weapon to define direction of space. So here we're in the corner, and that actually is what we're doing in the Tai Chi spear. So I'm just running through some of the sequence so you can see how the body works in conjunction with the legs. Okay? So when we're here, you can see we come up and then we come down. So you can see the direction of the movements become quite apparent, that the coordination and how we move the body becomes very important. As we move through space, the body has to become part of that action. And that is a piece of the Tai Chi spear form. And what you see is the two sides are working together. We have control, there's fingertip control, shifting and twisting and controlling the length of the weapon depending on how and why we have to do certain movements. So that does require integration body. This is longer. Both sides have to work together. And when we turn, it's really building control and footwork within the realm of our movements, you see. So it doesn't have to be done like some of the other martial arts weapons that are done very fast. We're doing it mainly to build integration of body and control. Okay, so when the body is in alignment, you have straightness, you have direction, you have, so you notice 45 degrees, horizontal, 45 degrees, vertical, 45 degrees. All of these directions are measured out in space. So there's a value to everything that we're doing because we're dealing with space. And what's in that space is you. So you have to become more aware of your space and how your body moves in the realm of your space. How do you shift your weight? How do you develop that balance? Now, one of the things I wanted to really quickly do is double swords. Actually, in Wu Style Tai Chi, we don't have a Tai Chi double sword form. So maybe 15 years ago, I had created something called the Tai Chi's double broadsword. It's really part of the Fuhak Tai Himon. But it's choreographed and utilizing some of the movements, all the movements sequentially as the single broadsword. So you would see some of the movements are really mimicking the single-edged sword. So you see the movements that come from here are really similar to what we're doing, but now we have some flowers. So you can see the movements are using sequentially similar movements, okay? But the thing is, you're integrating the body and you're working both sides. So if you watch the form, you would actually probably start to recognize the sequence. Okay, so that's just a sample of what happens with two swords using a sequence that actually has been adapted and modified. But obviously, because you're using two swords, it becomes much more complicated and takes much more coordination. So then once you have the two swords, when we do the twirling, which is flowers, the flowers can go this way and they can go this way. And then in this form, we actually do kind of movements that require much more dexterity. So anyways, that was a sample of what double swords are. So the coordination that you develop over time becomes that awareness that you have. Now, even though you have, a pair of swords in your hands and you're doing this, it's really something that becomes interesting, and it actually takes your body through another level of complex movements. Now, those sword type things we're doing are flowers, and we're twirling it. But it's essentially the same as what people would do, say, when you go to a luau and you see them twirling those sticks with the fires lit. That's actually the same thing that we're doing with the swords. The only thing that the motions are the same and the circles are the same, whether you have that or a rope with a ball on it. Those moves, they're the figure eights and all of the things that you can ascribe in space as part of what we do. So with that said, the classes for the weapon is over. If you like it, give us a thumbs up. If you need to review that, watch again during off times on YouTube, and you can actually see it on any of the sites that we're linked to. Okay, enjoy that, and I'll see you next time. We're going to have a Wudong class in about 15 minutes.